1, 2, check. Me now. So I'll wait just a second. Man, stupid Streamlabs. Okay, cool. Streamlabs never works right, and it really annoys me. Like, I purposely don't update it because every time I update it, it breaks things, and then of course it's just gonna break things when I don't update things. So that's fun. Anyways, what I was talking about, in 1 second. In Experian H, hello, sorry for bothering you. You're fine. I want to, oh, no, you're not fine. Okay. Yeah, and Streamlabs, like, admin tools don't work and stuff too. Okay, whatever. So, what I was saying before is we've been working on this code editor. There are some bugs though, which I'm going to show in just a second. You'll notice, first of all, when I scroll down, things like this start breaking, and that should be pretty easy to fix. So I'll work on that in a second. I think it's probably best to do that. But what I wanted to show was how I debug things like this. This one's a little bit harder. So when I add a space and it reparses this, you'll notice that it works fine. But, and let's just get rid of that for now. But when I go back a space, it breaks. And so if we do Control-Shift-I, which is a hotkey I've added, we can actually inspect the styles down here. And this is the same kind of functionality we get in VS Code, which I'll go to in just a second so we can start comparing things. But if I place my cursor here, you can see that what it's parsing, the style, is just source.lua, which is incorrect. And when we add the space here, now you can see it correctly gets keyword control Lua, meta function Lua, source.lua, which is basically the styles that get applied to this. And then the ultimate style that gets matched here is keyword.control, and we can see this is the color it should be. And same thing up here. The only reason this one isn't highlighted is because it's part of this scrolling bug. So we'll fix that in a minute. Anyways, though, that's kind of the basics of how we can inspect things and begin to debug, which we'll go into in just a second. First, though, let's fix this scrolling thing, and then we'll jump into that. So the scrolling thing should actually be pretty easy. If we go to our update loop, which is right here, and then we go down to where we actually render things. Update loop is a pretty big mess, but you know, it is what it is. If we go down to where we actually render stuff, we can see that what we do is, yeah, we get our highlight iter, which is our highlighter iteration thing, right? And we just start it at the beginning, but the problem with that is this does not start from the beginning. This starts from the first visible character. Yeah, the first visible character. Kind of. It starts from like the line number. That's what I was looking for. Okay, so basically whatever line number we're on, it starts from that byte. And so what we need to do, and I'm just going to do it this way for now, but we can optimize and stuff later and figure out better data structures and stuff. But for now, what we can do is for auto, trying to think of the best way to do this, temp cursor. Well, I guess we can just call it, we'll just copy this loop real quick. And then, and by the way, I switched back to UTF-8 before I had this local byte mapping thing going on. That's why we have this weird make iter from byte pose thing. What this is doing is it's basically creating a UTF-8 iterator. And so that way, when we do the plus plus here, we're not actually doing a single byte. We are going over the next character, which is good. And if we actually take a look at that, which I, of course, can't go into there, but if we take a look at that here, we can see we have this basic UTF-8 string iterator. And then if we look at the operator plus plus, we can see that what this does is it basically gets the next character from here. And then if we jump into here, this goes, yeah, here we go. And basically says, okay, let's see how many octets are in this byte. If it doesn't have a value, then we continue till we hit the next byte boundary, and then we just return that. And so we use this is any prefix thing to basically check and see if we're on a UTF-8 valid byte and all this stuff. So basically it'll skip over invalid UTF-8, or if you like start in the middle of a character, it'll go to the next valid boundary. Still not sure if those semantics are the best, but it does work. Anyways, what we want to do is we want to start from 0, which we can actually do shorthand by just saying make iter, which automatically starts it from there. And then we'll go till we hit the panel dot line number byte start, and we will increase our cursor. And then what we'll do is we'll do this thing. Basically, if the highlight iter is not the end and the cursor is in front of it, then we increment it. So basically, this should make sure the highlight iterator is on the correct segment before we begin rendering text. Okay. Render the text. Okay, so that should fix that scrolling bug. Easy enough. The hard part is going to be that place where it's not actually parsing it correctly, which is the thing that's going to be fun. So I say fun. It's actually not that bad. It's interesting to see how it works and stuff too. Okay, cool. So you can see it's working now. If I scroll down, this is still using the correct colors. So that is good. Okay, so let's get to it. First, let's add this. This is the smaller version of the same bug. First rule when debugging things, get the smallest the smallest reproducible example possible, which is this, right? We just have a comment, then we have a function, and I'm actually gonna just go foo, and then that function ends, okay? So this is the simplest thing possible. Yeah, and it still reproduces the same behavior. So this is what we're looking at. We want to make sure this works correctly. So first of all, the thing I'm gonna do is go into VS Code, figure out where I got this from, because I forgot. I had the tab open and then I closed it. It's one of these though, so we'll kind of look through real quickly. Check the repository. I don't think it was this one. Don't think it was this one either. Did I try this one? I think I might have just tried this one. Yeah, I definitely just tried this one. Okay. Lua language, maybe it's this one. Nope. See, this is the problem with a lot of the stuff here, is most extensions on VS Code are language servers, which is more advanced than what I have support for at the moment. Telesense and linting. Let's see what happens if we type in Lua grammar. Maybe this one? Let's see. Okay, so we've got this. This doesn't look right though. You know what? Actually, it's probably gonna be easier if we just go to GitHub. And then I just go ahead and search for this. And hopefully GitHub search. I hate this update that they did. This update is disgusting. I wish they didn't do it. Okay, no, it's not going to find that either. That's fun. Okay. This should work at least. Let's go look at my Lua browsing history. Okay, let's see. This looks like it's probably right. Let's see. There we go. Okay. Yeah, I think this looks correct. So that, yeah, that's definitely it. Okay, cool. So this is the grammar that I'm using. And the reason I was looking for it is because it's useful. well, we have to download the extension on VS Code to be able to test this out. So I need to streamline this process at some point. But the next step of actually getting this working is looking for this Lua helper extension. So now we'll go into VS Code and we will look through the extensions for Lua helper. And I believe this is it. Let's just make sure. So it says GitHub Tencent Lua helper, which if we take a look here, wait, okay, it's in here or here. Okay, this is, yeah, GitHub Tencent Lua helper. Cool. Okay, so this is the correct extension right here. So then I'm going to go ahead and install it. Once it finishes installing, we have to make sure it's the only extension enabled. Otherwise, another extension might try to like run its own linting or whatever. I don't know how Visual Studio Code uses figures out who should run what. I'm not quite sure. But anyways, so let's go filter to whatever I just have installed, which I guess that's that. Okay. Yeah, so this is the stuff I just have installed. Let's look for anything with Lua. Let's see. I just want to make sure I don't have other stuff enabled. So that's the one we just installed. And I think we should be good. Yeah, so we've got that, but nothing else. Oh, Roblox LSP. This probably want to disable though. And then reload. Okay. And yep, that should be good. Okay, cool. So now that we've got that, let's go into here. We can see this isn't being highlighted because I turned off Roblox LSP. Well, actually, let's get the highlighting on first. So if I go Control P, maybe Control Shift P, and then we say syntax. No, let's do Control P, syntax. No, okay. Lua. One of these things should enable the highlighting. I'm just not sure. Control Shift P, language. There we go, language mode. Okay. And we should see Lua. Yeah. Okay, there we go. Cool. So this doesn't look correct though. I don't think this is, well, it is. Okay, so we can see down here, it says Lua helper. So I think this is the correct library. It's just the styling is weird, different from what I'm used to. And that's also another thing. We'll want to make sure we're using the same styling that I have in here. Because if we're not, then things like this, where it's different, are really going to throw me off. So we can also get the same styling. JavaScript Atom grammar. No, that's not what we want. There is another file I have in here for like the Atom 1 dark theme. This thing. Okay. So I think if we just say theme Atom 1 dark. There we go. Okay. And the point of all this is we should see the exact same thing. From here to here. The color should be the same, everything, right? And we can kind of see that that is the case. We get this blue. We have purple equal sign blue. So this is like kind of my gut check. Is this working correctly? And let's actually copy that whole thing. This was pretty hard to get right. This is actually uses a back reference inside the capture, which means these equal signs must match the number of equal signs. So I'll talk about that in a little bit too. CGO Clan, how's it going? Good to see you. So now that we've got this up and running, we can finally inspect the TextMate themes. So let's actually do, I think it's just inspect. Yeah, inspect editor and tokens. So you can see we've got this little pop-up here, and you'll notice that it basically matches my pop-up down here when I do Control-Shift-I. And I say inspect syntax styles. So I've tried to make it exactly the same because then it just makes it easier when I'm debugging things. And so then we can go through and see keyword control Lua, source Lua, if we have the cursor on the second character. And over here, if we have the cursor on the second character, we get keyword control Lua, source Lua, and we can see it chooses keyword control for the foreground color, and it gives it that color. and we get the same thing here. Great. So this is how I get to the point. And this is interesting too. This wasn't working before. That's weird. This was not working previously. And it looks like it is working now. Okay, that's really weird. I'm gonna have to look into that now. I don't know how I fixed that because I didn't really do anything to change how that works. This is a weird, yeah, okay. We'll go into that later too. Anyways though, and that's why I have this /t in here too, is just because I wanted to test like a more complex grammar thing. Anyways, this looks good. So we can compare things now, right? We can basically say, let's compare and make sure that these are exactly the same. So let's go back to our simple one, this script.luau. And we'll go into here, get the same thing. So what we see we should get is keyword control Lua, meta function Lua, source Lua, and then it chooses keyword control. And what we see we're getting is not that. We're just getting source.lua. If I do a space, it looks like we do get the correct one there. And it is correct. And it is correct. Okay, so next step, we need to figure out which piece of the grammar should be highlighting this, and then step through it in the debugger to figure out what exactly is going wrong. So if we go over to here and we look for whatever that one was, let's see. We're looking for like these styles. I'm trying to remember exactly how I do this again. Let's see. So if I go here, whoops. Yeah, I don't think this is what we want. So if we go into the grammar itself and I look up meta.function.luau. Okay, I think this is probably what we want. Yeah. And does that match? Yes. Okay, so this is probably what we want. Just trying to make sure. Yeah, okay. So the way that all this works is we have a giant regex engine called Onigaruma. It sounds bad. It's Japanese. I don't know if I'm saying it right. But anyways, the way that regex engine works is it executes regexes, and I do a bunch of like extra work around those to make sure they follow these rules. And so if we look here, we can see that this has a begin block. Close. It's spelled this way. So we can see that it has this begin block, and then it has this end block. Yeah, it's the same regex engine that's used as Ruby's base regex. And it's also used in TextMate, which is why I used it here for consistency. But anyways, right, so what this is saying is basically we're looking for a boundary. And this, I think, is a positive look ahead. I'm not quite sure. It's good to know what these rules are actually standing for. So let's actually, and actually I don't, yeah, I do think I have it open up over here. Okay, so if we look for question mark colon, we can see what that does. Question mark colon subexcept. Okay, so it's a non-capturing group. So basically what this is saying is don't treat this thing as a capture group, which is helpful because then once we get to these begin captures, this is basically saying 1 actually starts here. So this is the first capture, and then 2 would be the second capture, which I believe would be here. No, but that makes no sense because we're just, yeah, okay. I guess 1 would probably be local. Yeah, that makes sense. And then the second capture. And so it's basically saying don't treat the local plus the spaces as a capture group. So anyways, what we're looking for is a boundary followed by the word local, followed by 1 or more spaces, followed by an optional function, the word, and then another boundary. Frecky little, hi, remember last time when you were printing your grammar tree or what it was also including the backslash. Maybe that could be the problem. That's a good point. And that's kind of like what I'm thinking too, is it's probably something where this comment is parsing 1 token too far. And so then once we start here, we're not actually getting this function word, which we can test by putting a space there. And it looks like that's probably exactly what it is. I want to go through like the whole methodology though, just to make sure. CGO, I don't think he wants to use money to increase his viewer. Sorry, you're good. Yeah, I would get rid of that comment, but dumb Streamlabs, everything is broken. So I just don't even bother. Anyways, though, so then what's going to end up happening is we basically just match these two, right? And then for the end block, what we're going to do is we're going to look for this. I think this is a positive look behind. Let's just see what that means, because it's nice to have some understanding there. Okay, here we go. Okay, so just, yeah, it's a look behind. I put the positive there because there's also a negative look behind, and basically a positive look behind in my mind is it must be there. So all that's saying is for the end block, you must have this thing, whatever this sub expression is. If we look, yeah, this is weird. I'm trying to see what it's followed by. So this is the look behind, but then there's nothing that it's like looking behind at, which is interesting. And also I would expect it to match, like look for end, just the word end. So that's also kind of funny. Weird. But yeah, and then basically what happens after that is we get a bunch of additional patterns that it matches in between. And those patterns that are matched in between constitute whatever code you write here. So like if I did local foo equals 1.2, those in between matches are actually looking for those and getting those sorted out. This end block though, I kind of want to understand. And so it's saying it's looking for a look behind. And then if we look at this stuff, this is just an alternation is what it's called. And all it's looking for is either a right parenthesis, a dash, a left brace, a right brace, or a left bracket or a right bracket, or a double quote or a single quote. So any of those characters looking behind is the end match. And that's weird. I mean, we're going to find out what it matches in just a second. Oh, maybe it's because it's only matching. I see. So what it's doing is it's only matching up to here. And basically, I think you could probably do like some sort of weird, what characters they look for there again? Oh, well, if we do this. Yeah, so you could probably do some sort of like attribute decoration or something. And then you can even do quotes for whatever reason. I'm not sure what all the language rules are that constitute those rules, but that's basically, so what it's matching is actually just this piece here is what it looks like. And I think it actually matches up to the first parenthesis, which we can see too. So this is still part of meta function. So this basically means that these two things, yeah. So the meta function actually goes up to this character as well. And I believe, yeah, so we can see which character we're actually looking at here. It's all very small, so I apologize for that. I gotta add like a zoom in mode that actually increases the text size and all this stuff. But this is looking at the right parenthesis, so we're actually looking at this character here. Anyways, that gives us our starting point, and this is actually really nice because this is the very first pattern, which means debugging this will be a lot easier than it normally is. So now to debug. If we want to debug this, we should go into our code editor panel and let's look for where we reparse the syntax. Okay. So we reparse the syntax here, and this is very inefficient at the moment. We're going to make it better in the future, but it's good enough to get started. So if I add a space, what just happened? That's a bug. I have no idea what it's doing there. That's very weird. Okay, I'm just going to add a space here, though, and that should trigger the reparse. That's really weird. And so now if we jump into here, let's actually just jump into parse. So if I right-click here, step into specific, parse. Okay, so let's go through here. We get our grammar tree, and I think this is, yeah, this is actually where we want to jump into. So if we go through our match, this first match should be the comment block, and I'm not sure which one that's actually going to match here, but we'll see here. What essentially happens is we're going to go through here, continue parsing till we hit the end of the line, then we reset and like try again on the next line. But first we have to find where that is. Oh, and I just went a little bit too far because I kind of didn't want to do that. Anyways, though, we can see we got one match here for the first line, and it starts at 0, it ends at 4, and if we look at the match itself, we should be able to see the scope, and everything is deeply nested, which is annoying. Comment line / Lua. So we can see that our first match was a comment double line from 0 to 4. Now, what if it has \r? I don't think the \r is going to matter in this case. So the way that the regex engine works is you don't actually match. Let's actually look at the documentation here. You don't actually match on backslashes and stuff, or at least you shouldn't. You can use this $, which means end of line, and then the regex engine should use either /r or /n. It will include it in the match search. Yeah, and that should be fine. I think actually I see what you're saying now. So you're saying here we're including \r. And the way that the regex engine works is when you do that $ character, it'll match both of those, which is fine. And that's the reason I left it this way. But in addition to that, we don't actually have carriage returns in the text. So the text I'm using here, I've pre-processed it, and it doesn't actually contain any carriage returns. So I don't think that'll be the problem. But the one thing we can check, though, is we have that match, and it goes from 0 to 4. And so if we go ahead and look at this, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, which is definitely wrong. So it's matching too far. Let's see what that is, actually. So it was like meta.comment double. No, let's see again. I'm actually just going to go and hit this so we can inspect it. Punctuation.definition.comment and then comment.line./. So if we go back into here, comment.line.double dash. This is in 2 places, so we could have either matched it from here or here. Oh, and it is matching the /n specifically. So typically you wouldn't do this. You would use $, because that helps look for the specific thing. But in this case, it shouldn't matter because it would capture both of those anyways. But this is the rule we're specifically going into, right? 2 dashes followed by an optional third dash. And it ends on a /n. So why are we matching 0 to 4? That's the question. Okay, let's rerun that again. So I'm gonna go do a backspace, which should trigger it again. Let's go into here. I'm actually going to move this breakpoint too, so we don't have to do this every time. Step into specific. You can tell I don't use this all the time. Okay, there we go. Parse. And let's just put our breakpoint here. Also, why are you showing a bunch of errors here? Do I have like... No, there's nothing in here. I don't get why Visual Studio does this. Okay. Anyways, though, so if we step over that, parse code block, get next match, and then if we jump to here, so the line end is saying is 3. Okay, so one additional thing you should know about these matches and stuff is when you have a begin-end match like this, it's possible to extend beyond the end of the line, which is another thing that actually makes this even harder. And Provod is rating with a party of 49. Thank you, Provod. Right now we're debugging some syntax highlighting, so we'll see how that goes. Anyways, if we jump into this, though, and actually see what happens. So first of all, we try and find the first match, and this tells us that we get an index of 12. And I have like a dictionary that basically tells us how to go from that 12 number to the actual pattern. And so what we should find is we'll actually hit this pattern. So let's see if we get that. And if it has a self pattern, that actually makes things more complicated. So I have some additional logic here to help for that. This stuff is all way more complex than I would like it to be. Okay, so we basically find the pattern. And then we go through our global patterns, and then we eventually finally find the actual pattern. So let's see. Yes, okay, so, and we can see that this is a complex pattern, which is correct. That means it has a begin and an end block. And I'm trying to make sure that it's the correct one. So if we actually take a look into the complex pattern, the value, it says we have one begin capture, one end capture, and 3 patterns in between. So if we take a look at this, we've got one begin capture, one end capture right here, and 3 patterns in between. We only have one pattern here, but it's an include pattern. So if we actually look for hashtag LuaDoc, somewhere in here, or not. Okay, well that didn't help. And now I can't remember what it was called. Das House 2. Hi Gabe, I'm a big fan of YouTube. Are you planning on producing more videos? Hey Das House, thanks. I do eventually want to make more videos. I just have no idea when, so I'm not gonna put any numbers out there. But eventually, at some point, that would be nice. Yeah. We're working on the thing that I'm gonna use to make the YouTube videos right now, which I'll show in a second. But if I lose my debugging point, it's going to be hard to jump back into this. Let's go comment.double, no, punctuation. It might be this. Yeah, okay, so this is the one we were looking at. Well, this one specifically. Anyways, what's going to happen though is this is going to expand into 3 patterns. So I think we are looking at the correct one here. So now if I actually jump into here and we go down, we're going to see this is a complex pattern. We're going to jump into here again. Okay, and so now what's going to happen is it's going to match the begin block, which if we take a look again, is just dash dash followed by an optional third dash. If we look here, that should match 0 to 2. I don't think it's inclusive. Wait, no, I think, yeah, I don't think it's inclusive. So I think it should only match those 2. So if we step over that, we should see we get a begin match, and you can see it says size 2. The start and the end are messed up, so that might be something we'll have to look at. Yeah, that's weird. So if I step over that, this doesn't quite look right. So I would expect to see start 0 and then end like 2. And then let's just double check in here again. Yeah, and then there's no scope here. So a scope is basically the style that we end up applying to the specific match. And there is no scope for the begin or end patterns. Well, actually there is. It should be this scope. But yeah, there's reasons we don't use that anyways. Okay, so let's go back into here. So we get 0 matches. So we have 0 captures, which I don't think that sounds right either. Yeah, we should be capturing punctuation.definition.comment.lua for the 0th capture. Let's just check this real quick. So we should get 1 capture here. Okay, so this is actually a different rule. Punctuation, white space, comment, leading, Lua. That's why it looks weird. Yeah, so we're not actually looking at this rule. That's why things look weird. So let's actually step over this. I'm guessing this probably isn't going to end up matching anything. And if it does, that's probably a bad thing and why we're actually breaking here. Yeah. So this is the problem, I think. White space, comment leading Lua. So what we're doing is we're actually matching one of these two things. Oh yeah, okay, so we can see here, this matches like dash dash followed by a dash or a space 0 or more times, followed by the word to do, and then a boundary character. And that basically just means we can highlight the keyword to do, which is actually pretty cool. We'll have to try that out. But then we also get this one, which says it should, I think the caret means begin. Let's just check this out. Yeah, beginning of the line. So you get the beginning of the line followed by an alternation of either a space or a tab. So it starts with either space, tab, one or more times, but that's optional. So this whole thing is optional. We don't have it in this case. Followed by a positive look ahead. That's what that equal sign is the less than equals means behind, just an equals means ahead, followed by positive look ahead, which is a dash dash. So this actually does make sense that it's capturing this. Because if we take a look here, one more time, that's basically saying we have the beginning of the line followed by dash dash, which is true in this case. And then the end though, what is the end match? So the end match is, this is like a global identifier thing. I can't remember exactly what it is. Let's just check real quick. /G, where the current search attempt begins. Okay. And then what's the question mark not? Question mark not is negative look ahead. Man, so this is a complex regex. So basically it's saying negative look ahead, so where the search begins, so not where the search begins. I don't know what the point of that is. Basically after the search, I guess. And then another negative look ahead, where it's not a space or tab one or more times, followed by a new line, which is all optional. I have no idea what this is matching. This end regex is looking for end of line, but you are skipping \n. I don't think I'm skipping \n though. The other weird thing too is, so the other weird thing is this isn't getting matched. If we actually look here and I go Control-Shift-P, inspect. Okay, so if we look at this one, it says it should be punctuation definition comment Lua followed by comment line double dash Lua, which is not this. And I think my program also matched that too, which is why I'm kind of, it's weird that we're looking here. I think this match actually isn't going to be chosen. Let's see. Okay, so then this says outmatches is 1, going from 0 to 4, and then what happens after this? I'm just curious where our line start and our line end is going to be. So 18, start is 4. Yeah, okay, so that's definitely the problem here. But if we look at here, yeah, see, this is what's weird. If we actually look into the style set that it says it's selecting is comment.line.double dash, not that thing that we just saw. You know what it is? Probably, maybe. I'm wondering if we're just getting an incorrect pattern. Well, I don't know, because it's matching. This is really weird. This is why I don't like debugging this stuff too, because it always messes with my head. Okay, let's try it one more time. So let's go into here. By the way, for anyone who just joined the stream, this is what I'm working on. This is a syntax highlighter. You can retheme it pretty easily by just doing like here. We're going to skip that for now. And then it just rethemes the code. And right now we're debugging an issue, which is where when you have a comment, this function does not get parsed properly, but then if we add some leading white space, then it does get parsed properly. And we're trying to figure out why that is. So something is going wrong there. Anyways, so let's add a space again. Jump into here, So here, I think I am including the new line in the match for this, Sam. So if we look at this, start at 0 and then end at 3, which would include that new line character. If we go back into here, 0, 1, 2, and then I'm on the third index, which means that this should include, because the last index is not inclusive. So 3, we're not including that, which means we should include these 3 characters. So I think that's fine. What I'm wondering about is whether we're getting the right pattern here, because the pattern seems wrong. Okay, so if we look at this pattern again, it's a complex pattern. The scope is null, which makes it harder to figure out which pattern this is. But if we look at begin, that's the regex. Trying to see if we can get something to like tell us what pattern this is actually looking at. I should really add like an identifier or something here, because that would just help. Okay, let's see. So for begin captures, we have 1 capture. Yeah, so this is what's weird. We have 1 capture in the begin, which is punctuation, white space, comment, leading, Lua, which is clearly one of these 2. And so I'm wondering, like, how the heck is it getting the correct style in the end? Okay, so if we go back into here again, so the string we're matching is this, that's fine. And you can see that there's only 1 /n in there, there's no /rs. And I want to look at our self. Nope, not that. I want to look at the, where is it? The begin captures. Yeah, this one. Okay. Yeah, punctuation, white space, comment, leading. So that's still looking at the wrong capture. Let's take a look at that one more time. Oh, okay, wait a second. So we have this, but then in between, it matches. So we can see this, right? So if I actually collapse this, this is 1 pattern. And we can see that these patterns are part of that. Yeah, and this is why it has 3 patterns. So it's definitely looking at this one. And I think this is how it's getting that, the correct style. Oh, yeah. Okay, so we can actually see this is a sub pattern. Okay, this makes more sense now. So this is a sub pattern of this. So this is correct. Because basically what we're doing is we're getting like the possible space that this could all be in. And then we go through these patterns and we find this, which should match 0 to 2. But why is this going past the end of the line? And so what you said, Sam, was that this should be matching for the end of the line. One other thing that I've added is like a debug helper. That shouldn't happen. Okay, that's really weird. Wait a second. Did I change something? Oh, this is probably just because we're reparsing and it's not happy with something. So 22. Yeah, 22 I think is definitely past the end of the end. Wait, let me see. What is our size here? Yeah, 22. Okay, I just have to add one more thing. So basically it wasn't happy because we were trying to inspect the end of the string. I'm trying to think of what the best thing to do here is. We could probably just say like this equals this. I guess what we could do is just say if cursor pose is greater than or equal to this code, or I guess just code dot length return empty array, and that should be fine. I don't get why I'm getting all these stupid errors, because clearly it's not broken if it's compiling. It's just Visual Studio being stupid. Okay, so let's go back into here. If I click the end of the line, we should be fine there. We're going to skip that. I just inserted a 0 on accident. That wasn't what I meant to do. Yeah, okay. Okay, so yeah, we're not getting any sort of bugs here. Wait, let me just double check. Yeah, so basically that works fine. Okay, cool. So what was I going to do? Oh yeah, I have a regex tester in here. So if I actually go view Windows regex tester, this should help us out a little bit too. So if we go grab that regex, which was this thing, and maybe, I never know this. Is it regex or is it regex? Because it's a regular expression, but yeah, I don't know. Okay, anyways, we want to take out the backslashes, the double backslashes, because we're not escaping a string here. So we just take those out, and I hate how small this text is. I need to like, and it's also not code font, which is annoying. But anyways, it works for now. So we've got this thing. I want to match it against what we have here and just see what we get. Okay, so it says we get one match from 1 to 1. So 0, 1. I think that's what that's saying. Like basically just that character. Which is kind of weird too. What if I turn off multiline? Okay, if I turn off multiline, it basically matches everything. See, and this is the problem with a lot of these regexes too, is by themselves, they match like anything and everything. But when you use it in conjunction with this begin block, so it matches that first, then it matches this, it ends up only matching the end of the line. So this actually isn't really helpful at all. Okay, let's go into here. We'll jump into this one more time, try and see if we can figure out why exactly it's going beyond where it should. So go into here. And then we're going to go into here. Okay, and then we're going to go into here. Okay, and then let's actually go into this thing and see why we're matching so far. Okay, so we get target string, which is just the string, target string end, which is the end of the string, and then the search end is the target string plus the end offset, which is that plus 3. So we can see it should end at the new line. The end is inclusive, so we're including the new line, and that's where the search end should be. Okay. So search start is the beginning, and then the anchor is the beginning of the line, so that just helps us set a flag. Okay, so then we get search res, which is it starts at 0. Okay. So it's saying it found a match at 0. If we look at the end, it is also 0. So it found a 0 length match at index 0. Okay, and then this is where we go and find the captures. There are no captures, and we get the scope and everything. So that's that. So the begin block just matched 0, 0. Cool. And then for begin matches, we're not going to get anything because we just matched 0, 0. Which I guess this makes more sense now too, because it's only matching this thing. Wait, no, it's matching this thing. And so if we had white space leading the comment, that's what that match would, that capture would get. I'm not using std_regex? No, so I'm using this library because that's what TextMate uses and that's what VS Code uses. And I want it to match VS Code exactly. So easiest way is just to use the same library. End pattern. So this is the end pattern, and we can have dynamic end pattern, which is another thing I'll go into in a little bit later. But for now, let's just go here. Jump into this. Okay, cool. So for the end string, the start is the beginning again. The end is the end of the string, and then the search end should be the end of the line. But it's not, because this is an end match, which means it could extend beyond the end of the line. So that's another thing with the way this whole system works, is if you have an end match here, that does not need to be restricted by new line characters. So another thing to make this more complicated. Okay, so let's see what we actually get matched here. Okay, so it matches 1, which is good because that means we're not going too far yet. So basically that matched here. I can't tell if it's inclusive, so it may have matched here. Maybe, let's see. Okay. So the beginning was 1, the end was also 1. So yeah, I think that means it just matched the first character. Okay, so then we go through and do the same thing. So that's good. That means we haven't actually gone past the end of the line yet. And then end matches is also 0. Okay, so then we go into our in-between patterns, which if we look here, that's going to be these things. And so what we should see is we're going to hit this one. Dash, dash, followed by an optional third dash. And we should hit this. So let's see what happens here. So step through, we get in between start is 0, in between end is 1. And this is another thing. So since right now we're only matching there, what's going to happen is this is going to push the window to here, then push it again to here. And what looks like happening is it's pushing it one more character farther, which it shouldn't be doing. So let's actually see what goes on here. So we look for the end of the current line and we push the window to there. Yeah, so we match up to the end of the line. So then we go into here. Okay, let's see what we get. Okay, so then we got a match at 2. Oh, that's a different thing. Okay, so yeah, this is actually going back. So what this is doing is it's basically looking inside of these patterns, and it's basically trying to figure out which one matched. And so that 2 was actually, if we look at this 0, 1, 2, it matched this pattern, which is the index inside of this array. Okay, so then what happens, if we keep going down, is we go into here, and now we're hitting another complex pattern, which is the one we were looking at just a second ago. Okay, so now what's happening is we're looking at this match. And so now we're going to look for this begin block, which we should see dash dash. So if we step through this, there we go. We get a match from 0 to 2. Okay, this is looking good. So 0, 1, 2. It's not actually matching that third one. It's not inclusive. So we're getting these characters. Step over that. Okay, begin matches. We get 1 capture from 0 to 2, which is punctuation, definition, comment, Lua. And if we look at this, that is correct. We should have 1 capture, which is this, and it captures the whole thing. Cool. So now the end pattern. Let's see what we get here. Okay, so this is actually good too. So this is matching the end of the line. You can see it starts 2 to 3, 0, 1, 2 to 3, which is where the cursor's at. So 2 to 3 is actually that new line character. And I think I might actually see what's happening, possibly. Okay, so we get in between start, in between end. Is that right? Yeah, okay, because we're looking for in between these 2 matches. So now we're going to go up to the end of the line. So we go 1 farther. Wait a second. I don't think we should have break there. Wait a second. Okay, so it did break, and then we ended up out here. Or was it because of this? Wait a second. I'm trying to figure out what exactly happened here. So if we look at this, the start is 2. So this was 2. So if we look at string, let's go to our watch window. String 2 is a /n. So then we got this, which meant that we have no in-between captures. So then it skipped this while loop, and now we're down here. Does that make sense? I guess it kind of does. Let's look at this again. It does kind of make sense because there's nothing else that could have been matched in there. Okay, well that should be fine still though. So let's keep going. Okay. So now we should get start and yeah, this all looks fine. Start is 0, end is 3. So that's correct. Okay. So that all looked fine. And now if we actually look at what our match was, it goes from 0 to 3, which is good. Okay, so now, okay. This is probably where it's going wrong. So we matched from 0 to 3, that's fine. So this was perfectly okay. Now we're jumping out and we're back into this pattern that was its parent, which is this thing, right? So now we're back up here. And I'm guessing what's going to happen is we're going to loop too far. So we discard any matches that don't actually live inside of our scope. Okay, and then it's going to actually increase the window size here. And then if a match in between exceeds the current end of our match, we have to try to find a new end that satisfies this match. Yeah, so what's happening here, and I think this is the problem, is it's now expanding the window size. So we've gotten that, and now we're expanding to here. And that was for some particular edge cases and stuff. But I think what we actually want to do 3, which is greater than this. Yeah, let's see what happens. So if we do this, yeah, and now we can see this is going to 4. And then what ends up happening is I think we're about to expand it to 4 here now. So if we look here, yeah, in between end is now 4. And then we look for the new end of line, which ends up consuming the next whole line. Okay, so this is the problem, is this bit right here. And I know I built this specifically for certain edge cases. First thing I'm gonna do, let's run some tests. Okay, I did change some things. I've never run the test again. And these tests basically just are regression tests, making sure I didn't break something. So I actually wanna run those again and see if we're okay. Let's go back to the build. Which is somewhere, but I lost that window. Anyways, okay, so what I'm doing now, let's go here. Tests.cpp. We've got these guys, okay? And so these basically test some weird edge cases to make sure that this whole regex engine parser thingy is working correctly and actually doing the right thing for these different grammars and stuff. JavaScript in particular had a lot of weird stuff, and that weird stuff made me do a lot of weird things in that engine. It's because JavaScript is a weird language. But if we actually take a look at it, we can see I've got a bunch of source code. So basically what ends up happening is these are the trees kind of defining what it should look like. And then this is the source code. So I basically say, hey, given this source code, we should expect to see this source code tree emitted from our regex parser thing. And so then there's a bunch of like weird edge cases that I've added in here that test different things. So we're gonna run through all these real quick, make sure they work right. I don't get why this build is taking forever though. Like, I wish I could see what's actually being built right now. I might just close out Visual Studio real quick. Okay, let's cancel this. Because Visual Studio is acting really weird anyways. So let's go close out of this real quick. Open it back up. Actually in here. And then we'll run those tests, make sure everything's working. If everything is working, I'm gonna go ahead and add that piece of logic that I think is gonna fix this. We'll rerun the tests. If it still works, then I'm gonna say, I think we're good. And then we're gonna add a new regression test to capture this case. So that in the future, if I make other changes, I can make sure that I'm not breaking things that should still work. Yeah, what the heck is this? PAVC not found. Oh, Unreal Visual. Okay. Let's do this. There we go. Okay, so what's actually happening? It's taking a long time because the tests run in release mode, which is also important because then that makes sure that we're not like adding some weird undefined behavior stuff that breaks things. Okay, so we will let this run for a little bit. That was quick. Okay, so we're still good here. All the tests are succeeding, so that's cool. So now let's go back into wherever the heck I was, which was here. Okay, what I'm gonna do, what I'm gonna do and what I was thinking was basically if we are ending on a new line, to just stop. Either that, or I'm wondering too, like, so I'm doing all this stuff. I'm trying to think of what the best way to do this is. Well, let's just try this first. So let's just do if string in between, or I guess end block match start equals a new line character. Then we're just gonna break. And what ends up happening, yeah, let's just do that. So I think this will work. Let's just run our test real quick, see if they all still work correctly. If they don't, then this is going to break other yeah, it just broke everything. Okay. So we can see we got a bunch of how did this happen? Which means clearly I should probably not be doing what I just did. So where was that coming from though? This is grammar.cpp line 975. Just curious. Ah, okay. So yeah, we're just like building an incorrect tree. Oh, wait, I see now. Wait a second. So what this is checking is if the in-between exceeds the current end of our match, we do this. Okay. Let's just do this. And this is me completely grasping at straws, but... And I think I actually want this to be like that. Let's try that, see what happens. I think that's why the tree was getting broken, was because it was basically sub matches that, nope, looks like we still broke things. Okay. Okay. Real quick, we're going to go debug again. And I'm going to put a breakpoint here so I can actually figure out what exactly is happening, because I can't remember what exactly the state of the program is at this point. Nope, that was the wrong one. Okay, we're going to have to go just remove that real quick. Add it back in here. Let's open up this script. Okay. So yeah, this is exactly the case I wanted to check. So in between start is 3, end block match start is 1. Okay. And so then if I do string 2, that's actually \n. Yeah, so I'm wondering if string in between... I think that's probably what I want to check real quick. So let's just see. If I go here, and Visual Studio Works, there we go. And if we say if string in between start -1, and we'll add like bounds checking and stuff in a second. I just want to see if this works. So if that is that, then we'll say end block match start equals in between start. And then if end block match start is greater than the end, then we'll say end block match end equals the start. Okay. We'll go back to here. Yeah, that looks right. Okay, let's try this again. See what happens. Nice thing about having tests like this, though, is that I can just run stuff. Okay. I can just run stuff and see if it works. So it gives me pretty high confidence that I'm not breaking old behaviors by adding this in here. Does it work, though? Does it actually fix the thing I wanted? Wait, no, because I still didn't do this part. And then we want to break. Okay, let's try again. Is it still going to work? Okay, it still works here too. That's good. Now let's see if this actually fixes the problem we thought it would fix, though. Which is that was parsing beyond what it should have. Okay, so we go into here. Okay, and I just did the wrong one again. Let's just go ahead and skip that stuff. Put the breakpoint back. Let's open up this file. That's the one I wanted. Okay, so I'm expecting we should go into here. We do go into here. Okay, then we do that. Okay, that's cool. And now what is our start and end? 0 to 3. That looks correct. And so now if we let this finish running, it works. Okay. Now the real question here is, should I be adding behavior like that? I have no idea. But since it's not breaking any of the other edge cases I ran into in the past, I'm going to assume, and it's probably a bad assumption, that that behavior is fine. But now we have this. Let's actually just go ahead and cancel that out. Type some testing. I think that should be highlighted though. Wait a second, let's see. Oh no, I need a third dash there. Okay, yeah, that looks like it's working. Cool. And if we do like return some other test thing. Cool. Yeah, that's good. I think we fixed that bug. That makes me happy. Let's just triple check. So if we look at this, we're matching keyword control Lua, meta function Lua, source Lua. And if we take a look at VS Code and we do a inspect, we match keyword control Lua, meta function Lua, source Lua, keyword meta source. That looks correct to me. Okay, cool. So now the most important part. We ran into a weird edge case. We want to make sure that, and I also need to fix this. What in the heck is going on there? I have no clue. So weird. Okay. Anyways, what we need to do though is we need to add a test case, a regression test, to make sure that we capture this in the future. And I need to fix that weird when we go down from here. We get weird numbers. I do not know what's happening there. But anyways, let's go ahead and add this. So let's go ahead and do this. And the way I add test cases, how do I add test cases? We go into here. We go. And I say, let's go into, where the heck were those tests? They were right here. Okay, and then let's switch to our tests. And then let's go here and we'll say define test with Lua. And this is testing, what is this testing? End block does not exceed when it hits it stopped on a new line. Okay. Test cases are the only things where I'll define extremely long function names. And so this whole test case suite thing is just something that I built myself. It's probably not the best. It does the basic things you would expect, where like we can say before all, after all. And speaking of before all, I probably want to do highlighters, import, and we want to do ./assets/lua.grammar.json, I think. Let's just check code editor, panel manager, CPP, highlighters. Let's just do import grammar, which is assets custom. Yeah, okay, it's a good thing I checked that. So let's do that. And let's do that here. Yeah, that looks good. Cool. And the reason I'm not cloning the repository is because we're going to change this. This is going to have to add different things. This is currently parsing Lua, but we want to parse Luau, which includes type information, which basic Lua doesn't. So we'll have to extend the grammar a little bit, which is something I've never done before, but we're going to see how that goes too. Anyway, so we have that grammar there too. And so now we should be able to go into here. We basically just want to do this. Same thing, right? So we get the highlighter, get imported highlighter. Let's actually just go up to the top of here. And we're just going to say static const char star Lua grammar equals this. Okay, and then just go up here. And then that's good. Go back down here. All right, so we've got this. And then for this one, we want to say Lua new line end block thing. It really doesn't matter. I can tell with the test case what this is actually testing. And then we want to do this, except expected. Cool. And so then we'll go into here. We will say, and basically do the same thing, const expr. I don't know if the const expr actually helps anything here too. I just do it because I don't want this stuff to be like heavy, but I don't know. It's a test binary. It's not actually going to do anything. So this stuff really doesn't matter that much. Anyways, what we're going to do is something like this, where we do a raw string literal. Okay. And then the string we want to test is this. So we'll go ahead and just replace that with that. So this is the string we're testing. And then we also want to do const expr, const char star, this stuff, expected equals raw string literal. And then we want to end on a parenthesis underscore. Okay, and for this, I'm just gonna leave it here for now, and we're gonna actually just debug and print it, because I don't know what the tree actually looks like. And this is the easiest way to do that. So where is that? That's in here. Let's move this over here. Okay, so then the easiest way is just to say g logger info, and we'll just print the stringified parse tree, and then we'll go through, make sure it's actually correct. If it's correct, then we're gonna actually continue with this. So how do we make sure it's correct? Well, first we do this. We actually have to add the test case though, and it's gonna fail. Okay, so we add the test there. We should see it fail. We do see it fail, and if we scroll up a little bit, we can actually see what it printed here. So now let's make sure that this is all correct. So we should get source.lua from 0 to 21, and then null scope from 0 to 3, which then has comment.line.double-lua. So the way I check this is I go into here. So 0, 1, 2, so that's 0 to 3. We should get comment double dash here. So we do, that's all good. And then we should get punctuation definition comment as well. So let's look back here. And we do, so we get punctuation definition comment from 0 to 2. And then this /n just falls into that. The /n's I don't really care about. So technically we're not doing the same thing Visual Studio is here, but it doesn't really matter to me because it's a new line. Like you don't highlight it. So anyways, let's keep going. Then we get the function keyword. We should get keyword control Lua, meta function Lua, and we should get that for the whole keyword function. So we see we get the whole function word, and we get keyword control Lua, meta function Lua, which looks correct. And then that space falls into meta function Lua, which we see it falls into meta function Lua here too. Once again, it's white space. We don't really care, but it's good to make sure that our tree matches what they're getting. Then here, up to the parenthesis, we get entity name function Lua, meta function Lua. So we check here, we get foo, entity name function Lua, and then if we go up the tree, meta function Lua. So that's good too. And then we get left parenthesis, which is punctuation parameters begin, punctuation parameters finish, and it's meta parameter. So we get function foo, and then left parenthesis, punctuation parameters begin, right parenthesis, punctuation parameters finish, and then meta parameter. So that's all correct too. And then finally we get the end keyword. Keyword control should be towards the rest of the file. And so then we get /n, once again, doesn't matter. And then we get the end keyword, keyword control Lua. Okay, so that's kind of my verification process. We match Visual Studio Code. That's good enough for me. We'll copy this stuff and we will embed it in our test. So then we just go into here And we go and do that. And okay, I can never remember if we should include the new line in the test case, because all this is going to do is it's going to compare this string to whatever the parser spits out. So now if we run this, we should get a success. And we get pass. Okay, and then let's get rid of the log spam. And we should be good. And we should be good. Okay, cool. Graysome, happy Friday. Wishing you a fantastic day filled with positivity and good vibes to kickstart your weekend. Thanks, Graysome. I hope you have a happy Friday too, and everybody else at the stream. Okay, so we've got that test case added, and then I'm just gonna do one last thing, which is we'll go into our grammar. Where is our grammar? Because I want to leave a note about why it's so weird, which is what I try to do. Okay, so note, if a match ends on a new line and exceeds the current end block, we'll stop matching. So this basically short circuits the rest of this process. This is for the test case, and then we'll just paste that test case, which was this thing, which is a mouthful, but I can control search that. So like if I did a control shift F, we could do find all, and then we can find exactly why I added this weird code in. Let's just do a little bit of that too, so we know what exactly I'm talking about. Okay, cool. Same thing here. Kind of capture these things a little bit. This goes from here to here. Cool. Okay, that's good. Let's add that. There we go. Okay, so git status add. Yep, looks good. Commit -m fix weird edge case for Lua parsing and add regression test. We'll push that. That's good. Cool. And one last thing I want to do. So I mentioned something before. Let's go back into debug. Let's open this back up. Okay. There is still one more thing. I have no idea. So this that I'm breaking on, we can talk about that in a second too. But basically, there was one more thing I want to go over, which is if we go into here, we have this thing. So these are interesting. This comment. The way you can do a multi-line comment in Lua is you start it with left bracket, some number of equal signs. It doesn't matter how many, left bracket. And then you end it with this. And you can see like we can move that around. It doesn't matter where it is. But here's good. But the one thing that is important is you end with a comment, right bracket, 3 equal signs, right bracket. And the interesting thing here is the equal signs have to match. So if I add an equal sign here, the rest of our file gets commented out. But then if I match it here, it gets fine again. And the interesting thing is it doesn't matter how many equal signs you add, it will always work. This is really cool, but it's interesting in how this works. So I kind of wanted to dive into that a little bit just to show you guys one other thing that I had to add to get this to work properly. So if we actually look for //1, this is the thing that actually does it, right? And so what happens here is we say match 2 dashes followed by a left bracket followed by some number of equal signs. It could be 0. That's the other thing too. If we go back into here, so that's a 0 or more match. And if we go ahead, open this guy back up, we could actually have 0. Uh-oh. Okay, this is something we should fix. We should be able to have 0. I don't have support for that, so I'll actually add that and then add a couple test cases. If I actually go into here, though, we can see that it works inside of Visual Studio. Yeah. Do we actually need to do these 2 comments too? Wait a second. Yeah, okay, so we don't even need the double dash at the end too. We can just do this. But the point is, if we add an equal sign here, equal sign matches. I do have some bug though, because I don't support 0 matches yet. The interesting thing about this, how does this work though? Like, how would you actually write a pattern to match that? Because it's dynamic, it changes. We can't just say, okay, let's add a rule for 1 equal sign, 2, 3, 4, 5, because it just changes. And so the easy thing to do is to say, okay, give me, I just want to match whatever this thing matches here. Just do the same thing. And we actually have that capability. So here, what we're saying is, instead of matching like some text, we're actually just going to back reference whatever was matched in here in the first capture group, which is this group right here. And so then the end match is dynamically built, and it basically looks for exactly that. It looks, let's find a right bracket, followed by whatever was in this capture group, followed by another right bracket. And there's a piece of documentation in the TextMate grammars styles thing that says it here. Let's see. These keys allow you to assign blah, 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 using the captures, blah, blah, blah. Oh, begin end rule can have nested rules. The above will match that, blah, blah, blah. Wait a second. They have a little thing somewhere in here. Oh, yeah. Okay. If the pattern that starts the block and ends is the pattern which ends the block, captures from the begin pattern can be referenced in the end pattern by using normal, regular expression back references. And so all this is saying is basically you can use this /1 to capture things that were captured in that begin block. And I had to do some weird stuff to get that to work right, but it does. And we can actually look at the code and fix it for this part specifically. So if we actually look for dynamic, yeah, we can have dynamic patterns. And so basically this says, if it's not dynamic, we just do the regular thing, which is this is just whatever the regex was. Otherwise, we build a regex on the fly, and we basically go ahead and we say, let's look for all the back references, because you could have multiple. You could have something that goes /1, /2, and that /2 wants to capture whatever the second capture group is, and that could be some foo. And we'll test this out too, just so we can see how all this works. So we have to keep in mind that that could reference multiple back references. And so we go through each of those, and then we basically go ahead and build a string, which is the regex we actually want to test. And once we finish building that string, we go and we just say we want a new regex from that pattern, and now we have successfully used a back reference in a pattern. So it's kind of interesting how that works. And then at the end of all this, I believe, yeah, if it's dynamic, we free the pattern so we don't have any memory leaks or anything like that. So that's cool. One thing we want to do though is yeah, so we hit this assertion error. Let's actually go into here and we'll debug it. Once we hit 0, which should be supported because that was a 0 or more match. And let's just go ahead, we'll turn that off for now. Okay, and then we do that, and then let's go back into here. And we will add a breakpoint, and now if I do a backspace, we're gonna hit this. So capture index is 1, number of regs is 2, so that's actually fine. Oh, and then this is where I got it. So this is the assertion that's failing. Replacement string begin, replacement string end. It's basically mad. So I guess what I should do is greater than or equal to here. And I think just doing that, we should fix that bug. So just an overzealous assertion. And then I think it should work the same, because essentially what's going to happen is it's just going to put an empty string in that concatenation and it'll do nothing. So we do 1, 2, 3. That's fine. This is not fine though. Oh, actually, so yeah, and this is the cool thing too, right? So, and I guess I copied this when I was looking for it from some example. This is the interesting thing. So the reason you want to have support for equal signs is because otherwise, if you have something like this, it'll stop early. But in our case, we can have 0 or more equal signs, and it works. Last thing that I want to show you. So like I was talking about, you can actually do more complex stuff. So say we wanted, for whatever reason, to also match some foo. And this sum foo could have any number of digits in between it. Okay, so just some complex weird pattern, right? So this is sum followed by 0 through 9. And there's probably a better thing I could use for checking for digits. But anyways, right? Followed by that 0 more times. And then what we want to do is we want to match the same thing that ends this. Okay, second capture group, right? And this should all just work. I'm actually interested to see what's going to happen here. I think it'll work, but we'll see. And it kind of illustrates how this stuff works in a little bit more detail. So let's say we wanted some foo, and we go here, some foo, but I have to spell it right. And this definitely needs optimization. Oh, and I actually don't want the parentheses. The parentheses are for the capture group. Look at that. Okay, cool. So this is working, and the cool thing about this is, right, now I can just do like those digits, and we paste them here, and now it matches exactly what we want it to match. So it basically just makes sure that this matches this, except a right bracket instead. So cool stuff. That's how that works. We want to add some regression tests though, because this was a new feature and I don't have any tests currently that make sure it works properly. So we will fix that. And I also don't actually want it to do this because this is wrong. So I'm going to get rid of that stuff. And we should be good. We should be good. Let's go into our test cases and add another test case now. So here we want this. Let's go back to test. And let's actually just say close others. There we go. Okay. So we'll do define test with Lua back references in end blocks work. This is also useful too for things like C++ raw string literals, right? Because basically what we're saying here is match anything that does this exact pattern. And we could do like that, right? And it needs to match. So another case where something like that is useful. Anyways, though, what we want to do is Lua, wait, no, that's not the one. Here, Lua back reference test. And this one's going to be expected. Okay. And I'm going to go here. Just going to copy both of these. And then we're going to say Lua back reference test. And then this one is expected. And for this one, I'm just going to do the basic case, which is 1, 2, 3, that, blah. And then 1, 2, 3, that is what should end it. So let's just make sure that works. And then let's go ahead and get rid of this. Cool. I might actually keep that there. And then this will fail, but we do want to log what the tree is because we want to make sure we get the correct tree. And so for that, we'll do that and that. And then we'll just go ahead, copy that, paste that. Okay, let's see what happens. It's going to fail, and then we can just go and clean up the rest of the test. Okay, so we got a failure, and it's a very simple tree. We just get comment block, and then it says punctuation definition begin, which is this guy right here. And then we get an atom, which is just, it's just atomic, and it's everything in between. And then we get that end. Let's make sure though, 1, 2, 3, that 1, 2, 3. And then what did I say was the middle? Blah. Okay. And let's just make sure Visual Studio does the same thing. So we get punctuation, definition, comment, begin, and it's comment block for that whole thing there. And then once we go past it, it changes, which is what we would expect. Punctuation, definition, comment, begin, and comment block. So that's all correct. And then this stuff is all just in comment block. And then we get end. And that looks correct. Okay. So we'll copy this, put it in our test case. This is what we're expecting. And now we should get a pass. And we get a pass. Cool. And one more test case that I want to add, which is that thing we ran into, which is define test with Lua back reference with 0 match sized match works. Okay. And I'm actually just going to copy all of this. Go ahead and paste it there. And then this will be Lua back reference 0 size. And then we'll do expected. And I'm just going to get rid of that test. Okay, so we've got that. We'll go into here. I'm actually just going to do that. Copy that. Paste it there. Expected. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to have 0 equal signs. And it should still work out. This is going to fail, but that's fine. Yep, and then we just want to add the test case there. We should get a failure. We get a failure. I actually want to print out the tree too, though. So print that tree. And by the way, these are the types of tests that I really, really like. We're not testing some stupid, unit that just doesn't tell me anything at all about whether my program's working correctly. What we're testing is the whole system end to end. I guess you could call this an end-to-end test, but it's not really because it's still a subsystem, right? This is just a tiny part. But basically, we're just saying, hey, this is what I give you. This is what I expect to come out, and it should work. And we're testing that, and that helps me capture like actual regressions and stuff, and it doesn't test things that don't matter. So these are the kinds of things that when I'm building my own stuff, I'll typically test because it actually helps me. It's like I'll figure out if I broke something very quickly. Let's see if this is correct. So if we just get rid of these, that still works out. Okay, and then we get punctuation, definition, comment, begin, and punctuation, definition, comment, end. So if I add an equal sign here too, this is just part of the comment block. We should add one more test too that captures that case as well. And let's just make sure. Yep, that looks correct. Okay, copy that. Go into here. We will change this. That should be good. And now we should get a passing case. Yep, that looks correct too. And then we're going to add one more test case, which I think is also important. So back reference with no end match parses until the end. Okay, and so we'll add that here. And then we'll say Lua back reference mismatch and this. And we'll go into here. Copy this, paste it here, and then we'll do a mismatch and a mismatch expected. And so this will be for like that, right? If we do this, If we have a mismatch, it should still consider this part of the comment. And then this will be wrong, of course. So we will just do, oh, this should say expected. Okay, there we go. And then we'll just log the tree. And that should give us what we're actually expecting here. Let's see what we get. We get a failure and we get this. Yeah. And so you can see it just says we get the comment begin, and then everything else is considered part of the comment block, which is what we would expect. Cool. Paste that there. Run the test. We should get a success. We get a success, and now we're good. Awesome. Get rid of that. Passing tests, no log spam. Passing tests, no log spam. That's good. You can see I still have some dummy tests that I need to get rid of, but most of these are tests that actually help me. So, yeah. It's kind of interesting to look at these too and see the kinds of things that behave weird. JavaScript was one of the worst ones, right? So this is a capture in a capture. Yeah, that one was horrible. So basically, this whole thing, I think, is a capture, but then it also contains captures. And so I had to add this extra recursion where like, oh, you can capture, but then you can also capture within the capture, and it's disgusting. I hated it. And then more JS stuff. Just making sure for loop with a template string literal works. There is all sorts of problems, but now if you have like a template string literal, this is a pattern embedded in a pattern, embedded in a self pattern, and yeah, it's all sorts of weird stuff. And then you also have things where, yeah, this interpolated string is basically testing whether you can match self, because the way this works is you actually get this stuff, and then everything in between is matching the entire JavaScript language. And so it's a weird self-referential pattern that goes back in on itself and matches the entire language again, because JavaScript is a weird language. But yeah. Oh yeah, and then I have notes here too. But yeah, all sorts of fun stuff, but it helps me keep the code working. So let's go here. Status, add commit, add regression tests for back references, and fix a small bug in the back reference code. And I think this is a good stopping point. So reflection real quick. What did we do? We fixed up some invalid parsing. Whoops, sorry. Gonna knock my microphone out from under me. We fixed some invalid parsing in our code editor. So basically now when we open things up like this, we successfully get this. When we scroll, it successfully highlights the things that we would expect. I still don't know how this works. This was not working before. Something we did fixed it, and it now works. Yeah, that's cool. But now we can have doc types in here too. I think we can also do like to do, fix me, which this is pretty cool too. If we actually go Control-Shift-I inspect, yeah, this is a to do keyword. And so this is cool too. So if you have to-dos in your code and you write them there, it'll do that. Do we have fix me? No, wait, maybe? No, but we could add that. So just some interesting things we can add to the grammar for stuff like this. We do need to fix though. You'll notice typing, it's extremely slow. So if I just do like some test typing, it's missing characters. It's very slow because of how slow the parsing is. And the reason that is because not the parsing is slow, but it's reparsing the entire file every time I type a keystroke. And that ends up increasing the time it takes as the file gets bigger. So basically the next step in this is to add only reparse this line that I'm on. when I'm typing, and then that should speed things up significantly. But yeah, we also fixed things like this. So before, this was broken, but now it works. The function keyword was not getting highlighted properly because of this comment, and it was extending beyond the end of the match. But now we're good. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Anyways, appreciate everybody who came and watched, and hopefully if you watch this later on YouTube, it is beneficial, but we'll see. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you.